Welcome to My Best 11 podcast. Today we are joined by a midfielder, attacking midfielder, striker even at times, played under 18s for 2 or 3 times for England, which is an amazing accolade. Started his career at Norwich, Luton, Swansea, Blackpool, Millwall, Grimsby, then finished his career at Lowestoft as a player and is currently lead development squad manager. Is that the correct way of putting it, I believe? At Luton Town. Today we are joined by Adrian Forbes. How are you, Adrian?
I am not too bad, thank you. How are you guys over there? I bet the weather's a lot nicer where you guys are than it is in a rather grey Luton, we will say today.
Well, Marvin, so how well... Oh, it's lovely here. But Marvin, how well do you know Adrian? You guys clicked straight away, obviously, 3-4 years?
Well, look, I'll say Adrian, or Forbes as we call him, had the pleasure of playing with me towards the end of my career. So when I say that, I say that at the time because I remember every now and then I watched obviously some old videos, and you played in that Hartlepool game, didn't you? I remember you when I scored. That was my last goal. So
yes,
so we did actually play together. So it's towards the end of my career, and a lot of the time I was coming on a sub. But yeah, Forbes was a little bit similar to myself, bubbly character, came in, smiles, right? Wasn't never down or like one of the miserable ones. So I was quite happy to share the dressing room with him.
Fantastic.
And I think what you just said there, Marv, I think I've always had that mantra in that, I always found myself, even though times were hard, sometimes at Luton, as you know, with the administrations, I'm sure we'll cover that stuff later on, but I always worked under the understanding that I was in a really, really fortunate position to come in and do something that wasn't work. I was viewed it as a paid hobby, so I had to come in and enjoy it every day, and that was what stuck with me throughout the whole of my career.
Yeah,
and I'm still the same now.
That's what I was going to say. Is that the reason why you stayed in football? Is that kind of what made you want to do that? Because it's a hobby that pays the bills.
Yeah, I think, the reality is I wasn't fortunate enough. I think I had a relatively good career. Did I get to the end of my career where I was, in that fortunate position where I was 15, 20 years of a Premier League salary, I could put my feet up and relax? No, absolutely not. But I was also real passionate about giving back to the career that gave me what it gave me, if that makes sense. So to be able to try and work with younger players and give them an opportunity to hopefully follow in my footsteps and live the same dream that I lived, that was always something that I wanted to do. And as my career went on and as the injuries set in, I found myself organically morphing into this coach anyway. So I thought, well, I might as well just give it a go, because to be honest with you, there's not much else I know or I've done. I've done it all since I was 16. So yeah, and even now, you still get, even as a coach or manager, you still get that passion at 3 o'clock on a match day or 7:45 midweek where, that winning mentality never leaves, and seeing players thrive, seeing players, as an example, this Saturday, one of my goalkeepers, Emerson Boyce, was on the first team bench, that's my reward nowadays, because I can't score goals and I can't run anymore.
Well, we are here to talk about you running and your career as a player, and we're here to find out from you the best 11 players you ever set foot on a pitch with. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump straight in and look at your formation first of all, and then go straight on to goalkeeper. So over to you, Adrian. Formation.
Okay, so I've gone with a 4-3-3. So a 4-3-3 with one holding midfielder and 2 attacking midfielders. I think that for me is my preferred formation that I would play as a coach. If I was a manager of a team, that'd be our go with. Although we do use the diamond formation a lot under my current role, but 4-3-3 would be the formation I would go with. And it also gave me the opportunity to make sure I could get certain players on the pitch that I wanted on my pitch. So we'll see what you think of it at the end.
Excellent. So you'll go through your team as we go through. Give us some clues and see if myself and Marv, we've been doing relatively well, I'd say. See if we can guess them as we go through, and honourable mentions as well, so you can't offend anybody. So over to you, goalkeeper-wise.
Okay, so number 1, my goalkeeper. This player I was fortunate enough to play with in my younger years, so that's already a good clue for you if you know where I started my career. He was the goalkeeper that worked with me throughout my schoolboy age groups at this club. He then went on to play for England. He also went on to play for West Ham, Queen's Park Rangers, Leeds, amongst other teams, and he finished off his career at a rather prominent London club, shall we say. There's your clues.
We got it. You got it, Andrew?
Yeah, you got Marvin.
Robert Green.
Correct, Robert Green. That's not a good start from my point of view. You got it straight away.
Hey, listen, we've been doing this for a while now, so we do our research. We do our research.
You do.
What was Robert Green? So obviously you came through and were at Norwich. As he was still a young kid then, he'd have been quite young. Or am I getting ages and things like that? I'm getting a bit confused now, but.
Yeah, and the one thing I knew from Robert Green straight away, we had, I was fortunate enough in the players that I played with at Norwich. We had my first goalkeeper when I first broke into the Norwich City team at just 17 was Brian Gunn. You're looking at this absolute legend of a goalkeeper that I watched when I was at home with my dad. And there I am running around on the same pitch as him. Wow, it was mind blowing. But then he went from Robert Green to Andy Marshall was the next one, another fantastic goalkeeper. But you always had this young absolute unit bubbling away underneath, which was Robert Green. And I think one thing you knew with Robert from the outset was his attitude, his work rate, and his steely determination always suggested that he was going to become a success. I don't think anyone would have looked at him and gone, you're going to end up playing for England and you're going to end up playing for the clubs you did. But credit to him, as his years went on, you almost knew that actually, you know what, the person and the character he is and the single-minded, almost tunnel vision was going to allow him to achieve it. So, from my point of view, it was great to have played a small part in his journey and have been on the same pitch as him.
What's it like as a goalkeeper coming through? To establish yourself, you're not expected to your 25, 26 really to get to grips with everything. And there's very few of these keepers at the age of 18, 19. I'm thinking Paul Robinson, Richard Wright, back in that era, they were the kind of keepers who did come through at an 18, 19-year-old. So is it hard, do you think, for keepers to come through? And as a pro who plays up front, do you go soft on them to help them out?
No, never go soft on them. Never go soft on them. The harder you go, the better it is for them. And, it sounds silly, but those corners come in, there's no point in you here to go, keepers, okay, mate, you come and catch it. No, I'm going to make it as hard for you as I can. And even me at 5'7" and a bit on a good day, I would still go in hard on those goalkeepers and almost look at it from a point of view of toughing them up. And even in, with my role now, if I see goalkeepers coming for crosses and one of my strikers isn't actually putting them under a little bit of pressure, they're going to know about it because their job is to put goalkeepers under pressure and to get goals. And if my striker's scoring goals past that goalkeeper, the goalkeeper's going to have to improve to stop him scoring, etc. So I think the one thing I will say, that the way the goalkeepers union works together almost in isolation sometimes, I've never known any of the clubs I play for where there's any animosity between those goalkeepers. The goalkeeper's almost an understanding of, well, he's the number one, I'm the number two, but I'm still going to work my socks off as the number two to make the number one better. But then when it's my turn to step in, I'm going to be at the top of my game to step in and take over where that goalkeeper's left off. So I'll always have a massive, massive respect for the goalkeepers. And, with them being almost the last line of defence sometimes and any errors they might make may lead to a goal, the mental toughness that these goalkeepers have, I've always been an admirer of that. So, and I think probably the Brian Gunn is probably the one that started off for me of understanding what it takes to be a top end goalkeeper.
Yeah, what was he like as a personality?
With Robert?
No, Brian as well. Brian Gunn.
He was, he was amazing to me personally. He was that. What word am I looking for? He was almost a father figure for me. He had the likes of myself, Darren Kenton as an example, that were young whippersnappers coming through that thought we had all the answers to all the questions, the cheeky chappies. But someone like Gunny would quite quickly bring us into line, but in a really nice way, shall we say? But you almost knew as well what a legend he was, and that come with an element of respect that we had to give him amongst other players that were in the dressing room at the time. So yeah, great guy. And it's actually great now to see, Angus, his son, is at Norwich, where it's, where Gunny had such a great career. Angus is now there, forwarding his career as well. So he obviously come with really good pedigree, did Angus. So yeah, great guy. Great guy.
Fantastic. So we'll move to right back, left back, whichever one you want to start on.
Okay, so right back. This player, this player for me, I would say, was very quiet in the dressing room, very unassuming in the dressing room. But when he got on the pitch, he was very hard to beat. Incredibly quick, loved an overlap down the right-hand side, and I would say went on to have a fantastic career. And probably, if I'm honest with you,
winner.
Let me finish, Marv.
I'm just guessing. I'm just trying to show our knowledge of that. We do research.
Okay, go on then. I'll let you cut on that. Who are you thinking?
I'm just asking, was he an FA Cup winner?
He was an FA Cup winner, yes.
Okay.
And he was He did manage to lift the trophy, and I would say went on to played very, very well for Crystal Palace as well. So your guess is, Marv?
Emerson Boyce. Emerson Boyce.
Oh, hang on, Boyce. I didn't even think that he lifted it. I forgot he'd lifted the FA Cup, even though he's been on here. I don't know why I said that. I forgot you were going down Boyce. Boyce's angle.
Yeah, and I think the thing is with Boyce, and I hope he won't mind me saying it, but that he used to get some stick from the staff, from Mr. Kinnear, the gaffer, was literally always.
We spoke about it.
I don't know if you can remember. It was something. Sometimes it was like, okay, gaffer, like give him a bit of a break. I can remember one. I don't know if you can remember it, Marv. I'm not sure if you're involved in it then or not. But he was playing against Peter Beagrie,
right? The old Scunthorpe guy,
yeah. And Peter Beagrie's gone down the left, and he's whipped in a lovely cross. And Joe Kinnear's going, Boyce, show him on his right. Don't let him cross like that. So Boyce did as he was told. Showed Beegs on his right. Peter Beagrie's gone whip with his right foot. Boyce, show him on his left. Don't show him on his right. Boyce is like, what do you want me to do? You keep telling me to do this. I do the other. You're still having a go at me. That was what Boyce had to put up with on a regular basis. But credit to him, he never let it get him down. He kept working and improving. And watching his trajectory and watching him grow was just, it was amazing. And I think me playing predominantly as a right winger in front of Boyce, you're like, okay, you knew what you were getting for him. And I would say, and I hope you agree, Mark, the right-hand side at that time was rapid. Me with my pace, Emerson with his pace, we were brutal down that right-hand side at times. And it was almost a mutual respect where I knew if Boyce went round me, I'd fill in the right back at the right time to recover into shape. But yeah, seeing almost taking those points that the manager would make at that time and making sure he developed himself so the manager couldn't pick those holes in his game again, I thought was just amazing. And to see so many years later that he goes on and plays in the Premier League and, you know, having someone that I call a mate lifting the FA Cup from just amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Right. No, it's fantastic.
What do you reckon his best position is? I'm interested in that. Right or left? Right or centre? Because, I mean, he lifted it. He lifted at centre-back, didn't he, Mark? Was it centre-back for Wigan?
I don't know. I think there might have been. I know, because they used to play a free. I'm not sure if they played, because sometimes they played a free at the back, but I think he was centre-back.
Where do you two reckon his best position was, and did it change as he got older?
I think for me, as I go back to the words I said before, and I apologise if I go back to keep talking about players with my coaching head on, but if I look at, as I said about Boyce at the start, someone that wasn't, the dressing room at Luton was brutal. Yeah, and I think Nico said this on his, didn't he? Nick Nack said this on his. The dressing room in Luton, it was, woo! You had to be a strong character at times. There was no middle ground. You either had to be quiet and keep yourself to yourself, or you had to be up there and just be out there and then be part of it. There was no middle ground. So I thought Boyce probably fell into the quieter bracket, but
yeah, he did.
He developed himself and worked. And for someone that was, me, in my point of view, quiet, to then go on to captain a team that lifts the FA Cup says so much about him as a person. It really does, because I probably, as a young, as when I started working with him at Luton, I didn't see those traits in him as a captain at all. So massive respect for him as a player, but massive respect for him as a person with what he went on to achieve on the pitch, off the pitch, not just football point of view, because as a captain as well, there's so many traits that you need to bring to the team, that you need to bring to discussions with the manager, discussions with the board of directors, so many aspects that you have to have as a captain. So yeah, massive credit to him for what he went on to achieve.
Oh, definitely. And obviously for him as well, showing his character to being captain of that team, and then to go through 3 days later, it was 3 or 4 days late when they got relegated as well. Must have been pretty tough from the highs and the lows to emotionally.
You know, how do you quantify that? How do you get your head around that you've got the euphoria of lifting that and like, wow, I can't believe I have literally done pretty much every boy's dream out there. It's not just playing in the FA Cup is a dream for so many kids out there anyway, but to play in it, win it, lift the cup, and in a matter of days, like, now we've got to play in this league now. So, you know, it's again, how you manage that mentally, how he would have had to have picked the boys up after that situation again, and I'm sure he did. Just amazing. So, yeah, I think that the one thing I do laugh about with Boyce as well is I can remember a period of time, and I can't tell you what, that Emerson Boyce is so quick, isn't he? He puts in some great last-ditch tackles, and I always remember going, he was putting in those last-ditch tackles because he was getting too tight to people, so he was getting done in behind. But he's so rapid, he'd get back goal side and put in those last-minute tackles. And everyone's some player him, some. But I'm going with my coaching head on. If he'd have stopped it at source and not got so tight early on, he wouldn't have had to do that. But you know what? It worked for him, and he went on to have an amazing career. So maybe I should have done that. Maybe I should have done that.
So we'll move to the left back, over to the left-hand side.
Okay. So you're going to get this one as well, I know. My first time I played at left wing with this person behind me, received the ball from midfield, took a touch inside, went to exploit space inside, and I can see this person absolutely bomb past me with speed I have never seen. Forbesy, put me in. I'm going around the outside. But you're way too ahead of me now. I can't get you in. This guy's engine, before I knew it, shock I'd lost possession, he was back in left back. And I'm going, who is this absolute freak of nature that ended up going on to play for Luton, to play for Portsmouth?
Can score worldies from about 50 yards out.
Can score, but the thing is with these worldies, so I know you know what about, he didn't do a worldie it wasn't just the one or two worldies, was it? It was like a worldie off the floor. It was like a worldie lob. It was a worldie half volley off this ridiculous left foot. And I know if I do tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure Nico might have said this on his. There was no backlift on his strike.
No.
But it was just arrow in top corners, etc., etc. So you know what I'm talking about?
Matty Taylor.
Matty Taylor. And, you know, this young lad that's coming through, baby-faced, and he was a bit of a baby-faced assassin, to be honest with you. Because he looked completely unassuming. You almost step up to come and train with the first team, you know. Who's this young lad stepping up? He's not going to be able to cope. This slight figure. But then he gets playing, you know, right, okay, I see it now. But to step up to, as I say, which was quite an unforgiving team, whether it be training-wise, whether it be banter-wise, whether it be pranks-wise, but there was just an instant respect for him because of the way he played and how he conducted himself. I would say probably one of the best professionals, I would say, at such a young age. People grow into their professionalism. And again, I don't know if you agree with this, Marv, but he almost came in as a seasoned pro at such a tender age. The way he ate, the way he looked after his body, the way he did extra work to make himself better. He did all this. So the standards that he set himself were superb. So it was probably no surprise that he went on to achieve what he achieved. And also with that as well, one of the most polite and well-spoken young men you could have ever come across. Such a genuinely nice chap. Such a really nice chap. Really nice chap. So yeah, I knew you'd get that one easily. But just for everything he done, and also for those times when I did have to play left wing, the one thing you want as a winger is to have trust in that person that's left back, or have trust in that person that's right back. That allows you the freedom to go and play and the freedom to go and express yourself. And I know a lot of managers, coaches, fans that watch players will say that those wide players, those wingers, can be annoying sometimes because the way they play, there's always going to be a turnover of possession. But when they're playing and they're playing with confidence, they can unlock defences regularly. And that was me. That was my game. Having Emerson behind me or having Matty Taylor behind me allowed me to go and express myself and allowed me to go and play. So, yeah, two fullbacks that I would say helped me massively in my time at Luton. Massively.
So was you always, just going back to you now, Forbesy, as a youngster, was you always a forward? And I mean, one was Norwich the only club. Was there any other clubs you could have was in interest as coming up as a schoolboy? What's that story?
You're going to laugh at this. I was a goalkeeper, Mark. When I first started out, I was a
goalkeeper. Stop. Hey, we're recording this. Hey, we've got to be serious now. What was Forbesy, stop messing around.
Seriously, I wanted
to be a goalkeeper. Do the boys know this? Who you train with?
Huh?
Do the kids know this?
Some of them do, yeah. But obviously, you can imagine the stick I get now. You're 5'0". How do you want to be a goalkeeper? And it was literally playing in a cup competition called the Canary Cup up in Norwich, and I was actually in goal. And the scout at the time, a chap called Gordon Bennett, may you rest in peace, he saw me as a goalkeeper and saw me doing well. But it's actually my coach, a chap called Jim O'Shea, that actually went, no. He's going in goal because he can jump really high and he's really brave. You need to see him out on pitch. And that's how it sort of happened. I did get an opportunity to then play out on pitch in the final of this cup competition up in Norwich. The same scout was there and went to my coach, actually, yeah, I see what you're saying now. And then gave me an opportunity to come in on trial at Norwich as an outfielder. But I think the one thing, my key attribute was my speed. I had pace and power to burn. And I think probably at, 14, 15, 16, I was a bit of a freak of nature as well with my build. So that lent itself to me playing, in attacking areas. And I think that's what I always done, really. I was out and out as a right winger or left winger. It wasn't until Luton, really, where I got converted to playing a full season as a striker, but I hadn't really played it before then. So always had an attacking mindset, always had a mindset around setting people up. I was never one of those people that wanted the glory of getting the goals. I was quite happy and comfortable to set others up. So, yeah, defending wasn't really my forte, to be honest with you. All out attack. All out attack.
You're the same size. I think you was born like that one. Yeah, you're the same size now.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you, Marv. I am challenging the height department, but one thing I could do is I could leap. So that got me out of so many sticky situations because I could jump really high. But no, I would never, ever, ever have flourished as a goalkeeper. That's for sure. That's for sure.
So, as your coaching role now, you said you were fast then. How fast are you now?
Oh, no. I'll join in the odd possession-based practice or join in the odd 11v11. The last time I joined in, I think 2 weeks ago, was 11v11 was at centre-back. But now what I can do is I can just get it and pass it. If the ball gets stretched in behind, I'm in a world of trouble. So it is literally keep the game in front of me, pass the ball as quick as I can, and that's it. But, I think it's good. The career I had and playing the way I played, I think it gives me a better opportunity to develop the players I'm working with now. That's not to say coaches have to have had a playing background to be able to develop players. That's not me saying that at all because I don't believe in that. But I think it just allows me to speak to them because some of the experiences that they will have, I would have already experienced it. Even if it is knowing you might be an attack-minded player, but at some point, age will creep in and you will have to go a little bit further back. You might have to adapt. You might have to change your game. So they're the little key messages that I can give back to the players, now. Even if they do like to sometimes, if I get stuck in the rondo circle, they will quite quickly play on me and stitch me up so I get stuck in the middle. But I wouldn't change it. I absolutely love what I do. Love it.
Fantastic. So we'll move across to centre-backs, whichever one you want to do.
Okay, so my first one, I'm going with a young lad that was captain, or my captain, at the age of 19, which me coming in as a vastly more experienced player than this person was surprising. But the club I was at the time made the decision to make this player captain because they wanted to keep him, because he was getting quite a lot of interest from other clubs. This was League Two football we were playing at the time. When I got on the pitch with this centre-back, I realised quite quickly what a talent he was. And it didn't surprise me that he went on to play for teams like Norwich, Wolverhampton Wanderers, lots of Premier League appearances, also played for Leicester as well. I'll give you a clue in that he started his career at Grimsby. Centre-back, 19 was when he was the captain at Grimsby.
I know, obviously, Grimsby is, love Grimsby. I had a mate, I don't know if he probably was there when you were there. Graham Roger was working on in the community.
No,
but
no.
I used to go. No. I'm not saying it's him, but I said I'm saying he's more than a lad I also played with at Luton,
right? Yeah.
Who's now because it's the end of the world, Grimsby. No one. I used to say to him, "Why are you?" This is when he left Luton. Why are you signing for Grimsby? I said, listen, it's like you need a passport to get there. It's another place.
And to be honest with you, on that, I know we're going slightly off topic, but I'll give you some thinking time as well. The reason I ended up at Grimsby was logistically, I knew I was coming to the end of my career. Family had moved back to Norwich. I needed something that was the east side of the country that I could commute to every day. Grimsby and Lincoln were the options. I ended up at Grimsby, but there's also another reason I ended up at Grimsby, and who might the manager have been at the time? Newley. Mike Newley.
Newley. That's right.
Yeah, and Brian Steeves. So I ended up going to join them.
I don't know if he was a centre-back, but I'm just going to throw the only name I could think of, Mark Hudson.
No.
So did he come through? Because only one that I can remember was Robbie Stockdale. Robbie Stockdale was there for a while.
No, Robbie was there. Robbie was at Grimsby with me, but it wasn't Robbie. I think, if I'm right, this player started at Peterborough and ended up going back to Peterborough.
Oh, he started his career at Peterborough.
I think he started as a youngster at Peterborough, but then ended up actually making his debut and playing his first professional games at Grimsby.
And he ended up at Wolves, Leicester.
I'll give you a clue. He's still now currently playing in the Championship for Swansea City. Had a good career at Norwich. Good at Wolves, as I say, Leicester.
You've done me. I mean, I'm not one of those ones to be grasping at straws. You've done me.
Go on.
Okay, so the player in question is a player called Ryan Bennett. Ryan Bennett. Now, it wouldn't necessarily be one of the names that you go, wow, he went and played 1 million games in the Premier League. But the one thing with him, as I say, captain at 19 in a team that was struggling in League Two. But how he behaved, how he conducted himself and how he played, you knew this kid at the time was going to go on to have fantastic things. Did I know he'd have the career he had? Of course not, no. And even now, you know, you just looked at him and knew that there was something special about him. He had a laid-back demeanour, and still I would say when you look at him play now, he still has quite a laid-back demeanour, but was aggressive in his headers, was aggressive in his tackles, comfortable and confident on the ball, was vocal in the dressing room, even at the age of 19, speaking to senior pros like myself and demanding from us as senior pros as well at such a tender age. So yeah, fantastic player. And I think, you know, looking at the performances that he put in, you know, Premier League football, that is the elite of the elite. The elite of the elite are the players that get to play in the Premier League and have longevity in the Premier League, and he's done that. And now even playing for a club the size of Swansea City,
yeah,
you know, it's still a massive club, even though it looks like they're going to miss out on the playoff place this year. I think with Russ Martin and Matty Gill at the helm there, they might go again next year. But, you know, for me, so pleased to have played a small part in his journey. And, you know, I hope that me being that senior pro working alongside him maybe gave him a little bit of detail, a little bit of information that allowed him to flourish and allowed him to go on to achieve what he achieved. So a bit of an obscure name, probably one that won't have been put out there. But for me, a fantastic young defender that went on to have a great career.
Yeah. That's why it's called that's why it is your best 11.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
That's so true, and hearing some of these names and finding out some of these people, because there are a lot of people listening, including myself and Marv, that will probably do a bit of a deep dive on having a look at him now. Even though we would have heard of him, probably seen him, but not really picked up on him. Yeah. So awesome. Who's next to Bennett?
Okay, so again, this might be another name that might not fly straight off your brain straight away, but this chap started off at Southampton, also played for Sheffield Wednesday and Barnsley before playing for Swansea City. So obviously played with me at Swansea. Life and soul of the party, a bit of a smiling assassin, because he was hilarious. Very, very similar to Kevin Nichols, I would say, in how he conducted himself around the place. But with the smiles, there was a steely determination behind those smiley eyes. He also went on to manage several teams, whether it be... You think you got it, Mark?
So again, he went on to manage as well, he said?
Yes, and he managed some big clubs as well.
Blonde hair?
Correct.
Is I can't be with me.
He went on to manage...
Gary Monk? Come on.
Gary Monk. Yes, Marv. Yes.
Dig it out, Marv.
Yes, good Marv. Good work, you. Yes, Gary Monk.
Yeah, where is he nowadays?
Yeah.
So he's not in the game, and he's not in the game at the moment. Obviously, he went on to manage Swansea, Leeds, Middlesbrough, Birmingham, so managed some fantastic teams. But you know, with the managerial merry-go-round, I think there's one thing you do know as a manager: you're gonna get sacked. I think that's inevitable at some point. You have your success, highs, the lows, and I think that's one thing I'm learning from a coach and a management point of view now is to not get too high with the highs and not get too low with the lows, because you know there's inevitable things you're gonna lose games, etc., etc. But the thing with Monks, and similar to Luton in that how can I word it? The team spirit, the camaraderie is driven by Monks and another couple of players as well. Life, soul of the party. Whenever there was a night out, he was there. Whenever there was fun to be had, he was there. But come 3:00, your captain that you wanted to lead by example, he was that man. He really was. So, you know, again, it is no surprise to me that I don't know definitely if he had in his head that he was going to go into management. And though he went from, you know, as a caretaker manager at Swansea, did really well, then ended up getting the job full time. And then obviously started his journey to becoming the manager that he did. But I don't necessarily know if that was something that he had planned, on his journey to come out of playing to go straight into management. But massive respect for him. And also what I learned from him, I was, several hundred games in by the time I went to Swansea, but watching him and his behaviours, how he conducted himself and the professional element he had certainly shaped some of my behaviours within that group and within that squad. And it was a very, very successful squad at Swansea as well, led by him. So, yeah, Marv, well done.
That one out, Marvin.
Dig that one out.
No, definitely. I mean, just talking about Swansea, and I've been doing a bit of a read on there. Obviously, your time at Swansea was very, very successful. At Swansea and loved your time there. Talk us through how you ended up at Swansea. I mean, going from Luton across to Swansea, and then, like you said, you're a Norwich boy. It's a hell of a way, and then to end up going to Blackpool afterwards.
Well, it's, you know what I did? I did the magical mystery tour of the UK with my football career. So obviously I was actually born and bred in North West London. Moved up to Norwich as soon as I finished my GCSEs. I was actually playing for Brentford and Norwich at the same time, because obviously Brentford was my Brentford or QPR would have been my closest two teams. But Brentford told me straight when I was 15, you're really quick, you've got no left foot, your right foot's okay. If we were you, we'd give up on your footballing dream and concentrate on your education. That's what Brentford told me when I was 15. And I'll never forget. George Dobson, his name was. I'll never forget him telling me that. I was like, fine, okay, thanks, George. I'll just go and sign for Norwich then. That was the catalyst that drove me. But going back to Luton to Swansea, in reality, the only reason I ended up at Swansea was because Luton was in administration. Luton had offered me a new contract on fairly reduced terms, because obviously the club was in administration, so financially they didn't have the money. But in the same time that they offered me terms, basically Swansea got in touch with my agent and got in touch with the administrators and said that they basically want me. The administrators then said basically, well, we know we can get you off the wage bill because this team's shown interest, so we're retracting that contract. That's me done. It was as simple and as short as that. So off I went, basically. There was other teams interested as well. So from me and my agent's point of view, well, hang on a minute, if I'm going to have to leave, let's not throw all our eggs into the Swansea basket. So in one day we went on a bit of a trip, and we took in Swindon, we took in Bristol Rovers, we took in Yeovil, and we took in Swansea. So by the time I got to Swansea at the end of the day, I was absolutely shattered. But there was just something about Swansea that as soon as I went there, I was like, yeah, this is the place for me. Meeting the manager, Kenny Jackett, at the time, meeting the owner at the time, Hugh Jenkins, and everyone else around the club. They made me feel so welcome from the outset.
Because they were just about to start their rise, weren't they? Because Hugh Jenkins was chairman when the rise begun, wasn't he? And they built the new stadium and all sorts.
Yeah, and unbeknown to this idiot, when I signed the year before, they'd avoided relegation out of the Football League by one game. They went into the last game of the season needing to win, otherwise they'd have been relegated to the conference. And the player, James Thomas, scored a hat-trick. I didn't know any of that. So I'm signing for a club that's almost gone into obscurity the year before. And I'm like, yeah, where's the pen? I'll sign. I can't wait to join. No understanding of where I could be signing, what could be happening. But as you said, the project that they spoke to me about was massive. I was at the old ground, which was the Vetch Field. They told me straight, we've got 1 year left here. And then we're moving to our new stadium. And I was like, oh, that old one. Yeah, new stadium. That's going to be built next year, isn't it? Went, yeah, we'll take you to that as well. I was like, oh, wow. It's actually being built. Oh, right, okay. And I paid it lip service because I just thought, you've heard those. When I signed for Luton, it was talk about the Cola Dome. Marv will know this. And I was like, yeah, that's never happened. At least now at Luton now, Power Court is genuinely going to happen. Right. You can't wait for Power Court to be built. But I just thought it was going to be exactly the same scenario as Luton, but got in the car and went across to the stadium. The infrastructure was already there. Everything was being put in place. And you go, you know what? This is the place for me. And it's one of the best decisions I made because I absolutely loved my time there. The management team, coaching staff, the players, the area with my young family. Beautiful, beautiful place to live. So really glad that the decision to leave Luton was taken out of my hands.
So Fobbsy, did they sign you on a free transfer then? Or did they have to pay money for you?
No, they got me on a free.
Right, okay.
They got me on a free.
I just wondering, was when you said, we're taking away this contract, this is Luton now, taking away this contract because we know this club wants you. I was just wondering if they were going to be trying to cheeky and say, hey, we want like blah, 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 just to help with the money situation or something?
No. So
No.
in effect, I was out of contract to Luton anyway.
Right.
So they were like, yeah. So yeah, I had no choice. So off I went. And it was tinged with disappointment because I didn't want to leave Luton. Everything that I needed, everything that I wanted, my life, it was here. It was in Luton, and I loved it. But if I could have picked a club to have gone to, and if I could say the decision that I made was right, it was the right decision, because the success that we had, that group had, that Kenny Jackett put together, and almost put together a team of players that had been released by clubs or had points to prove. Kenny Jackett put us together, moulded us, and we went on to have a really successful time, really, really successful 2 seasons. So, I don't regret the decision. It was a strange one though, Mark, because I think I ended up that last season, my last year for Luton, ended up scoring something like 18 goals in that last season. Yeah, and then I've ended up leaving on a free, which just summed up, the turmoil that Luton was in at the time. Because you look at that now, that would never happen. It would never happen now. A player scoring 18 goals and then ends up walking from the club on a free. Again, I say walking from the club, not my choice, but you'd never see that happen in this day and age. Never at all. Never.
That's already interesting. That's interesting as a player's perspective. But you almost just got to go, do you know what? I'm going to do a merry-go-round tour and work out who I'm going to sign for on a day trip, almost. And like you said, have a few different places. So, but Swansea, what a club to go to and on the way up. And I've read up that you scored the final goal at their old ground.
Yeah, I did. It was the final league goal at the Vetch. It was a really, really surreal day. We knew the stadium was being built in the background. We knew everything was ready. And whilst no one at the club actually said, boy, lads, we can't go into this brand new 22,500 seater stadium that's been purpose built in League Two. No one actually said that to us, but we almost knew, with all due respect to League Two, we can't go into this beautiful new stadium playing League Two football. It can't happen. And I can remember actually leading up to that game when I scored that goal against Shrewsbury, I was horrendous. Probably the 2 games before that, I was so bad.
Were they playing you as a striker or as a winger?
I was a winger. I was a winger, but I wasn't beating people. I wasn't getting crosses in the box. I wasn't creating any opportunities. I was performing really poorly. And I knew this game was coming up. The last home game, there was the fanfare around it was massive. You want to be part of this game. And I know there's no way I should be part of this game because at the moment I'm playing horrendous. And the manager, Kenny Jackett, pulled me on the Friday. He went, I'm going to be honest with you, Adrian, you ain't been playing great the last couple of weeks. And I'm like, he's telling me early that he's going to bin me. He said, but I know you're a big game player for me, and I think you're going to turn up tomorrow. I'm telling you now you're starting, but I need you tomorrow. And that just lifted me. I was like, right, in that case then, I'm going to play for you, Gaffer, no problem. And as you say, it was a few minutes into the game. I think it was Lee Trundle, it might have been, or maybe Kevin McLeod that put me through on goal. And I see Joe Hart come rushing out. And I thought, this is Joe Hart. He's just off to Man City after this. Brilliant. I've got to get this one curl around him. And I just managed to curl it round him and whip it in the top corner. And I'll never forget running off to the North Bank, which was an old school stand. No seats, just people standing. Absolute scenes going off in the stand. And, that's a memory that's going to live long. A memory that's going to live long in my mind. I've got the pictures of it. So I've got 3 or 4 stills of me running through, hitting the shot, running away to the fans and jumping in the air in front of them. And they're vivid memories that will stick with me forever, as, I've still got the shirt that I played in on the day. And then randomly, another random story was the week after. So we're level on points with Southend the week after. We're 3rd, Southend are 4th, but we're level. And whoever wins on the day gets promoted to League One. So we've got Bury away. So we've got 6,500 Swansea fans have travelled from Swansea to basically to Manchester to Gig Lane. We've got the monopoly of the ground. Bury have only got 1,500 fans there. So Bury have given Swansea the whole of the ground. So it's really random. Because we've got so many fans, our game kicks off 10 minutes later than Southend's. So our game kicks off. It goes from striker to striker, back to Christian O'Leary to Leon Britton. Leon Britton kicks the ball over the top. I sprint after it, head it forward, volley it, goal. 7 seconds or something like that. We score. Absolute 6,500 fans going mad. There's a pitch invasion. It's all going off. We're ushering the fans off the pitch. So that's pitch invasion number 1. Next thing I know, Southend concede a goal. Pitch invasion number 2. Southend fans are running on the pitch. Lads, Southend have conceded. If we see what we're doing, we're promoted. So now we're about 15 minutes behind the Southend game. So we go in at half time, come back out, play our game. Bear in mind, I score after 7 seconds. we defend for the rest of the game. We don't create any opportunities. We're horrendous. Nerves have really kicked in. So then Southend game finishes and they lose. So then there's another pitch invasion because the fans are running on to tell us, don't lose. If you just keep the score at 1-0, we're promoted. So anyway, referee then tells us that if the players come on again, I might have to abandon the game. If the fans come on, I might have to abandon the game. So we're ushering the fans, all the players are ushering the fans off, making sure they don't come on. Then the referee says, right, we've got 2 minutes left on the game. I'm going to blow the whistle in a minute. Start making your way to the tunnel because he knows it's all going to go off. Blows a full-time whistle. And it's on YouTube. Blows a full-time whistle. 6,500 mad jacks, as they're called down there, run on the pitch. It's all kicking off. So then the story gets even better. Game finishes. We're all celebrating. We want to go and see the fans, but we can't get on the pitch. So one of the stewards at Bury comes up with a great idea and says, if you got that central staircase, you can look at all the fans over the stand. So we're like, oh, brilliant. We'll go up there. So we're up there. We've got champagne. We're popping the corks. We're bottles of bubbly everywhere. And the next thing, our big goalkeeper, Willie Garay, almost gets pushed over the side. If he'd have got pushed over the side, he would have landed on top of the dughouse. He's severely injured. But the only reason he got pushed is because we had the Greater Manchester Police trying to usher us back down this central staircase. So they're pushing us from the right and pushing us from the left. Willie gets stuck in the middle. All of a sudden, in his broken English, Willie says something a bit expletive to a police officer. The police officer turns round and says, if you speak to me again like that, I'll arrest you for foul and abusive language. Willie proceeds to swear at the police officer again. He gets arrested. So we've just been promoted from League 2 to League 1. All the players are obviously lively, chirpy, bubbly. The fans have seen it all unfold. Our big goalkeeper is getting bundled back down in handcuffs, bundled back down the stairs by 4 coppers, in the back of the van, carted off to the police station. You couldn't write it, but it's true. You could not write it. And that, I think that story just sums up Swansea, the time there, and how successful we were. A bunch of players that were put together by Kenny Jackett, but the team spirit and the camaraderie, similar to Luton, led us to success.
But you can't leave it there. What happened with Willie? Yeah, did he?
So what happened
overnight, or did he?
No. So what happened? We then got on the team bus. So you picture what team coaches are like, but obviously they're massive, aren't they? It's not just standard coach. So we get on the team bus, and this is essentially we're all chanting "Free Willie," aren't we? So we're all chanting "Free Willie, Free Willie." So we get on the team bus with the chairman's now on the team coach. So we go to Greater Manchester Police Station, and the team coach literally bumps up on the curb. It was priceless. So door opens, Kenny Jackett, off he goes, see what's going on. 20 minutes, half an hour later, the manager gets back on the bus. He goes, right, lads, they're just giving him an £80 fine, but he's giving him an £80 fine, but he's going to be an hour or so. What are we doing? Are we waiting for him, or are we starting the journey back? And we were like, no. Willie saved us penalties, saves, coming through crosses. He saved us all season. We are not going back without him. Brilliant. So he goes, right then, driver, turn the bus round, go and find an off licence. So literally, you've then got Gary Monk as a skipper and one other player, who I can't say at the moment. It'll become relevant in a little while. Nice little clue there. We turn the bus round, go to like a retail park. Half the lads walk into Asda with a bit of a whip to get the drink. Another group walk into McDonald's and buy just loads and loads of McDonald's. We then go back to the police station, pick up Willie, and then we start the long journey back to Swansea. Absolutely brilliant. But the funny thing is, he's still got his kit on because he got arrested in his kit, didn't he? So he's just got he's got no top because he'd thrown his top into the crowd. He's still got his shorts on. He's still got his socks and shin pads on. And that's how he travelled back down to Swansea and actually went straight out in Swansea that night in that outfit as well. Yeah, great time. Great time.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Couldn't write it. Awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to pause it right there and for a quick break. And then when we come back from the break, we'll hear Miles 60 Seconds and the rest of Adrian Forbes' My Best 11.
Hi, I'm Kelvin Davis.
This is Sean Dyche.
This is Ricky Hill.
My name is Kevin Nichols.
My name is Mark Pembridge.
Hi, my name's Rebecca Lowe.
Kevin Gallen.
Hi, my name is Mick Harford.
My name's Steve Davis.
This is Ian Foyer and
Kevin Foley.
My name's Graham Alexander, and you're listening to
My Best 11.
My Best 11.
My Best 11 podcast.
Welcome back to the second part of My Best 11 with Adrian Forbes. So far, Rob Green, Emerson Boyce, Maddie Taylor, Ryan Bennett and Gary Monk. Before we keep going with the Best 11, we're going to hand straight over to Marv for Marv's 60 seconds. Marvin.
Okay. Favourite other sport?
Oh, table tennis.
VAR or no VAR?
No VAR.
Funniest player?
Kevin Nichols.
Golden goal or penalty shootout?
Penalty shootout.
Beer, wine or spirit?
Wine.
Best ground you played at?
Wembley.
Bundesliga, La Liga or Serie A for quality?
La Liga.
Fish and chips, pie and chips or pasta?
Fish and chips.
If you wasn't a footballer, what would you have done?
If I wasn't a footballer, I would have done something to do with cars or motor racing.
And last one, Marv.
All right. And favourite holiday destination?
Oh, now I'm going to say this. I've not been there. I've been there a long, long time ago, but I'm trying to sort out myself and the fiance going there to see my mum and dad. But St. Kitts and Nevis. Can't beat the Caribbean.
Okay.
Very nice, very nice. I'm going to go back to your table tennis comment though, right at the start.
I saw Marv's face when I said that.
I've never seen that. I mean, I thought, what? You can hardly see above the table. How can you play table tennis?
Oh, I'm actually crying, Marv. I tried to keep a straight face, but you could see the shot. Like, what? I have always, it's one of those things, right? Where, so I played a lot of cricket growing up, but I wouldn't say I really loved playing cricket. I was a good wicket keeper, etc. But I absolutely love playing table tennis. I don't know if it falls under the bracket of a sport, but I do really enjoy playing table tennis. I think it stems from being back at Norwich, and we had a table tennis table in the one of the lounges there. So you're playing table tennis every single day. Every day you're playing it. And randomly, I'm not too bad at it. So yeah,
You was up there. Was one of the champions.
I would say I was one of the better ones. There were some good
You
players.
You and who?
You know what? There was Chris Llewellyn, who was one of my teammates there, went on to play for the first team with me in Norwich. He was pretty good, left-handed. He was pretty good. But I would say me and him are up there, and another player, Darryl Russell, not too bad neither. But I would put myself with one of the better ones for sure.
Okay.
But if I had to go away from that, it would link to what I said is what I would have done had I not become a footballer. I love cars. Absolutely love everything to do with cars. So if I could have got involved in some form of motor racing, where it probably would have been not Formula One, but some form of rally car would have been my ideal.
Okay. Excellent. So we're going to move or keep going on your best 11. We're going to go to midfield. So wherever you want to start, really, it's up to you.
Well, I'm going to start with my holding midfielder now. This will be an easy one for you because I've mentioned him a couple of times already. But fantastic captain to work for. Led by example on the pitch. Off the pitch, sometimes you had to try and rein him in, but he was a loose cannon at times and nothing you could do about him. But if you went in the trenches, you definitely wanted this chap next to you.
And you played England. You played at England under 18 with him, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah,
I did. So you know who I'm going on about. He's been on here already.
Go on, Andrew.
Mr. Nichols.
Mr. Kevin Nichols. Yeah, he was just immense. And I think with Nico, we signed for Luton at exactly the same time. I think a matter of days apart, to be honest with you. So you get that transitional period when you walk in the dressing room. And there's always that thing where you go, you never know when you walk into the dressing room. There's always, in some dressing rooms, and I will say there wasn't one in the Luton dressing room in my time there anyway. But there could always be a bad egg in the dressing room. There could always be that player in the dressing room that you don't want to be associated with. But when you walk in as a new signing, you don't necessarily know that. So you have to be so careful with who you go and sit next to. So naturally, if you're a new signing and there's other new signings in there, you gravitate towards those players. And me and Nico done that along with a few others. But as I say, there was no bad eggs at all in that dressing room. But having Nico as the captain, it just galvanised it even more. It just brought it together even more. Whether it be pranks in the dressing room, whether it be, I know you mentioned it on here about a certain person's underwear that was put on a firework. But Mark, can you remember him setting the big one off in the dressing room as well, Mark?
Yes, I think I was hiding behind a towel. It was that like ricochet. He could have killed someone.
But when I say he brought in this box, right? So it was the same batch of fireworks that he brought where Steenie's boxes went flying. It was a box that had something like 6 to 8 ignition points on this box of fireworks. And you know when lads being lads and you give it that one, I bet you don't set it off in here. You couldn't say that to Nico because he went, I bet I do, bet you don't. Bang! Before you know it, there was bodies everywhere. People sprinting into the boot room. 2 or 3 bodies in the physio room. There's a couple people in the big bath, and it's all going off. Like fireworks going off everywhere. The fire alarms going off. There's sprinklers going off. And I can remember it clearly, laughing through fear, literally laughing through fear. But that was kept. But that aside, those little things brought us together as a group, Mark, didn't it? It made us stronger. It made the team spirit better. And you knew that if there was, even little things like when it came to the beginning of the season, you need to negotiate your bonuses and all that. You knew Nico was going to go in and fight for you. You knew Nico was going to come out with something that was going to be beneficial for everyone. And the bit I loved about him as a captain most, if you were in the crap, if you were struggling with anything, you knew your skipper was going to be there to back you, whether that's on the pitch or off the pitch. And I thought Nico was excellent at that. As to be fair, as was Gary Monk and other captains that I worked with. But the way that Nico went about it, a special talent. But the one thing I haven't mentioned, the boy could play as well. My word, he could play as well. Yeah. He really, really, really could play. And I think that sometimes went unnoticed, and that everyone looked at him and almost saw him as a tough tackler, that aggressor, that one that would put his foot in. And I think because he was prepared to put his foot in, that's why he ended up with so many injuries. But for me as a winger, him spinning balls in the channel for me to get on the end of, him playing balls up to the striker to play off, the way he marshalled things and the way he controlled other players around him. Yeah, exceptional footballer as well, on top of everything else that he brought to the table. So for me, I would have to have him in there as my holding midfielder. Have to.
Right. Good choice.
Do you think it's a bit of it's a shame in a way for players coming through that Nico doesn't do kind of coaching at clubs in the Championship and things like that? Do you think he'd have so much to offer them? Obviously, like you said, he came for under 18s, so he was a player. He really was a player. He was playing for England.
He was, and even playing for England, he was no different playing for England than he was playing for Luton. I was next to him then, wearing the 3 lions on your chest. So I have seen it firsthand that it wasn't just I can play for Luton in this way, but I play for. This was Kev Nichols, and this is what he done. And yeah, 100% as a coach, he could give something back to young players coming through. But I also do know that every player that comes out of the game is different. Coaching isn't for everyone. And, I'm seeing that now. There's some real challenges that come with coaching. I'm looking at it this time of year when, over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to have to tell people that unfortunately there's not going to be a contract for you next season at Luton Town. That's really, really tough. And it's not for everyone. And not everyone wants to be out on the grass coaching every day in all weathers and all conditions. And it's great that actually he's still involved in it from an agent point of view, helping people get their chance and helping people get clubs. So he still is around it. And hopefully, in knowing him, I'm pretty certain he's still giving those players detailed information. Well, he said it himself, didn't he? When he was talking with you guys about being the mentor. Yeah. So he's still having a positive impact on the players he's working with, just not actively out on the grass with them. So it's no surprise. And I think the beautiful thing with Nico as well is, similar to myself, the humility and the humble nature to him where he can say, I did make mistakes. I made many a mistake. But that was me. I can't change those mistakes. All I can do now is give back and help those players that I am representing and I am mentoring help them not make those mistakes in their journey so they can flourish. And I think he's done that, and I think he is doing that as well. So yeah, fantastic chap. Fantastic chap, I've got to say.
Definitely. So we'll move on to the players either side.
Okay, so I'm going to go on the right-hand side first. So this player started his journey at Real Zaragoza before coming to the UK to play for a Wigan team with two other Spanish players. Went on to be very successful at Wigan, was also very successful at Swansea. Now gone on to be a very, 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 very successful manager in his own right, and is currently managing at quite a high team now. Any ideas?
The second best in the world, aren't they?
Martinez.
Correct. Roberto Martinez. This suave gentleman. Roberto was the guy that all the Swansea lads would be going out, the drinks would be flying, they'd be quite happy and content in the corner of the coffee. That was Robbie. That was how he was. And learned so much from him about the way he conducted himself. Learned so much from him about how, when you saw him play and when you saw how intently he listened to the coaching staff and players around him and how he spoke during a game, you knew he was going to be a manager, because his attention to detail was unbelievable, and he would almost be coaching whilst playing.
Yeah.
And it was between him, it was Roberto and Gary Monk that were the captains, as we say, but they led in different ways. Roberto wasn't, neither of them were shouters, but Roberto would lead with a calming influence and just talking people through the game, dragging people around him. You should be here, you should be there. Why aren't you here? You should be doing this, you should be doing that. Get yourself in. If we do this, we're nice and compact. We're not. He was coaching non-stop, so almost managing the team for Kenny Jackett when we were playing. And also there'll be times when, and if you picture what the dressing room was like sometimes at Luton, Marv, where you come in at half-time and all hell's breaking loose. You think we had some characters where everyone was almost talking over everyone sometimes, and then Nico would shout louder than the next person, and then the next person would shout. Sometimes that would happen, and Robbie would just relax, gather his thoughts, and then he'd talk. And then when he spoke, everyone sort of shut up and listened, because you knew the detail and the information that he was going to give you was going to be relevant and was going to make a difference. And I think I look at him now and what he's gone on to achieve from a management point of view, which is just amazing. Managing Belgium, wow. And the team of staff that he's had around him is an amazing achievement. And, one that I'm sure, there's been a lot of people that touted him to go on and manage some of the big clubs, your Madrid, your Barca's, etc., etc. I can see him at time in the future coming away from Belgium and going back into team and club management again. But yeah, the way he conducts himself was superb. Yeah. But the man could put short, sharp, simple passes, kept the ball moving. Very, very rare he gave possession away, but also had a real good understanding of the game, in that he was that player that would never need to slide tackle, because he had such a good, clear brain and understanding how to play the game. He knew where to position himself, so he didn't have to put in a slide tackle.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. How did he go about from going from Zaragoza to the second tier of English football? I mean, it's totally different, or is it?
It must be totally different. The climate alone is certainly different, but you wouldn't know that. The adaptation, I would say, I didn't know much about him when he played for Wigan, but, just certainly playing alongside him, the adaptation to be able to cope with the rigours of League Two, League One, etc., it was easy for him and effortless for him. And I think what you can say is, and this is no disrespect to League Two or League One, because that's where I play the majority of my football, but if you've got a good footballing brain, you are able to play at that level and play comfortably and easy, and that was Roberto. He could make the game look easy and make the game look effortless. Don't get me wrong, he had some real good footballers around him as well, where he could get it and give it to these other players that were excellent at what they did. But yeah, he almost put a bit of a Spanish twist on good old-fashioned spit and sawdust grit of League Two. But yeah, absolutely delighted to play alongside him. Yeah, fantastic player, really good player.
Fabulous. So we'll move on to the other side, left-hand side. The other side.
So left-hand. So this player was an interesting one in that he turned up on trial at Blackpool, and if I remember correctly, no one knew he was coming in, but he turned this little lad, tiny, smaller than me, Marv, a lot smaller than me, turned up, left footer, and proceeded to join in training, because you're here now, so you might as well join in. And that was it. No one could get the ball off him. Exceptional player. Started off at Livingston up in Scotland. Played for Blackpool, as I say. Played for another one of my old clubs, Norwich. West Brom. And is now still currently playing at Cambridge United.
I think you were going to think it was Charlie Adam, Mark, but it's not.
No, I wasn't thinking of Charlie Adam.
I know exactly who this is. He's a wizard and he is loved by Cambridge fans.
Yes.
Go on, I don't know who it is. I was thinking of someone way beyond.
It's Wes Hoolahan.
Wes Hoolahan. Yeah. It is Wes Hoolahan. You use the word magician. You use the word mystic. He killed my football career at Blackpool. Absolutely killed me because he'd just go off, give him the ball. So we played a real structured 4-4-2. But Wes would never stick to task. He'd just get the ball and go off on one. But invariably, he'd get the ball, go off on one, and end up in the back of the net. So he just goes, fine, you keep doing what you're doing, Wes, it's not a problem. So I then had to be a bit more defensive-minded and let him go and play, which was absolutely fine with me because with Wes's performance, it brought the whole team, it brought the whole team success. So never an issue that he was able to go off and do that. And I think the beautiful thing about Wes, he was so unassuming. I wouldn't say he was one of the loudest ones in the dressing room, but he was always there when we're having a bit of fun, a bit of a laugh and a giggle. But when he got on the pitch, you couldn't get the ball off him. Yeah. All left foot. He would always do this little pirouette with his left foot, and you're thinking, well, he's not going to get out of that gap. Oh, he has got out of that gap. How has he done that? And to be able to go and play for Norwich in the Premier League, be able to replicate that was just amazing. And I think the thing with Wes, the really interesting thing with Wes is he always just looked like he was playing football for fun. It wasn't a chore for him. He just enjoyed himself. And it was like he was playing street football every day. That's how it came across to him. Street football every day, enjoying life. And I can remember one story, training, and obviously Simon Grayson was a manager, and Tony Parks, bless him, who's struggling with dementia at the moment, Tony. He's gone through, beat 3 or 4 players, went to shoot, missed, and didn't track back. Probably a minute later, I went through, beat 3 or 4 players, took a shot, hit the post, went off, and I didn't track back. And Tony Parks said, whoa, Forbesy, stop being a lazy so-and-so, get yourself back in shape, what are you doing? And I've gone, whoa, hang on a minute. It's all right for him to not track back, but as soon as I do it, it's an issue. And yeah, that's because he's Wes Hoolahan and you're not. Get yourself back in shape. Right. And that summed up Wes. He literally had the monopoly to go and play and almost do what he wanted. But without him, Blackpool certainly didn't have the success. So he's another one. I know I've said it before. It's no surprise that he's managed to go on and achieve, what he's achieved. And now, he's still someone that I see now and again because he still lives in Norwich, as I do. And there's a lot of people that came to Norwich, have now gone off and done other things, but still live in Norwich. There's a lot of old ex-pros around there, but it's amazing that he's still able to go and play every Saturday. I know he doesn't do many midweek games, but it's amazing that he's still able to perform to the level he's performing at Cambridge as well. No mean feat, so massive respect to him that he's managed to keep himself in such a great shape. He must be 37 now, in such great shape to be able to perform at that level. So massive, great credit to him.
Oh, definitely. So we will move on to the front three.
The front three. So I'm going to go right to left. So this player
is Adrian Forbes.
Started off. Sorry?
He's Adrian Forbes.
No one's picked themselves yet. No one's picked themselves yet.
No, I couldn't possibly put myself in it. But this front three would have been absolutely deadly. So, starting on the right-hand side, this player, certainly a character on the pitch, certainly a character off the pitch. Got himself into the odd scrape, I would say. That led to got himself into the odd scrape that led to him getting into little bits of trouble here and there. And just charged my iPad. Then
was he Welsh?
Oh, Marv. Was he Welsh? Yes, he was. So you guessed it already.
I think he's still Welsh, Marv.
Yeah, I think he is. He is definitely still Welsh. Definitely still Welsh.
Liverpool.
So
Cardiff.
Yes. Amongst many others. Others. But yes, you guessed it.
He must have had a dozen clubs, hasn't he?
But the thing is, and should we say his name now?
Yeah.
People to guess it?
No, they know. Craig Bellamy.
Craig Bellamy. So he went on. Bellamy's journey can almost be described as he played for your dream selection of football teams. If you look at a young lad and you go, right, young man, you're going to be a professional footballer, and across your career, you're going to play for Norwich, Coventry, Newcastle, Celtic, Blackburn, Liverpool, West Ham, Manchester City, and then finish your career back in your hometown of Cardiff. You're going, yes, please. Where do I sign up for that? To play for all of those clubs, within the Premier League, other than Norwich and Cardiff, obviously, you're going, wow, amazing. But for all his scrapes and for all his, I would say, issues that he had, because he was a live wire, what a player. What a player. I can remember, throughout we were together from under 11s all the way through to first team at Norwich. And I don't think this will ever happen again, but 9 of us that were together from 11 all got professional contracts at Norwich City. 9 of them, which I don't think you'll ever have. I could be wrong. I don't think you'll ever have in this day and age, but there's somewhere a group comes through from that age all the way through. But I was the first one to make my debut. So we're talking, as I say, Robert Green. We're talking about myself. We're talking Craig Bellamy, Chris Llewellyn, Darren Kenton, as an example. They're just 5. I made my debut first. And I can remember one of the first things when I came on a Monday, I was like, Forbes, what's it like to make your debut? You got on against Wolves, this, that. Oh, it was amazing. Craig had no input. He just turned around straight away. You're going to make your debut before me. I'm going to have one hell of a career. That's all he said. That's all he said. Cut me down straight away. And now I'm looking at the list of teams that you play for. I'm going, you know what, mate? You weren't wrong. You weren't wrong. But that was him. Single-minded, determined, grit, passion, desire to be the best footballer he could be. And I used him now as an example of where I went wrong and where the young players that I can work with now. Not so much now when I'm working with players that are that little bit older, but certainly when I was at Norwich as the foundation phase league, working with under 11s, 10s, 11s, 12s, 13-year-old players, I would say I'd get in my car at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, go home to my apartment thinking I've cracked it. When I'm walking into the car park to get in my car, Bellas is walking back out on the pitch with a bag of footballs on his own. Now, this was every day. This wasn't a one-off. This was every single day he would go and better himself. Just getting the football, getting cones. Didn't ask anyone else for help. Just go and do his own sessions. Hit another 15, 20, 30 40 balls a day. You times that by the course of a 5-day week with a day off, then your game, you're only going to get better. You're only going to improve. And that's probably the one thing that I look back now and I go to myself, I wish I'd been more Craig Bellamy from that point of view, because maybe if I'd have done that, I might have at least got 1 or 2 appearances in the Premier League, which I didn't achieve. And I hate the fact that I never managed to achieve that. But he had power. He had pace for someone that's not particularly tall or not particularly big. He could finish. He had the work rate to go and press and then the ball back. Yeah, just an exceptional talent. And as you say, as I say, to go and play for the teams he played for, you've got to be some player to be able to achieve it at that, because that is the pinnacle. Liverpool and Man City, that you look where they are in the league now. That's 2 huge clubs that he went on to play for. So, yeah, massive credit to him. Amazing career. Amazing career.
Yeah, definitely. So next to Bellamy, or the other side, before we get to
the left-hand side,
before we get to the main man.
So on the left-hand side, so this chap started off doing a bit of a tour of the lower leagues from Burscough to Chorley to Stalybridge, Southport, Bamber Bridge and Rill. Then got his opportunity at Wrexham. An enigma of a player that don't coach him, just let him go and play. Probably the most skillful player that I've had the pleasure of being on the football pitch with. And similar to Wes Hoolahan, he just played for fun. Tricks, skills. He was nutmegging people in games before nutmegs were even a thing. Did amazing at Wrexham before getting his move to Swansea. Then went on to play for Bristol City. Leeds on loan before coming back to Swansea City as well. Bit of a talisman and an all-round Swansea City legend.
I know who it is.
You're going to take a punt?
No, I'm not going to take a punt. I know exactly who it is. I know.
Go on,
Andrew,
then.
do you know who it is? I wouldn't have played him out on the left, obviously, but I know you probably got some big hitter as a centre forward. That's why you put him on the left.
That's probably what's throwing me.
Left
he
footer?
would. So
Left footer? Was it? Oh, he's both feet, wasn't he, really, I suppose?
he could use both, but he was predominantly left foot.
Yeah.
And normally, if from a Swansea point of view, he would have played as a 2. He would have played as a 2.
I mean, he scored some unbelievable goals. Ridiculous
You
goals.
mentioned him already, I think.
No?
Potentially. Oh, no, I don't know. Maybe.
No, you haven't. You haven't. Anyway, let's just say it then. Lee Trundle.
Yeah, you've mentioned him already. Yeah, Trundle. Yeah.
Lee Trundle. I might have mentioned him when talking about my time at Swansea. Yes, Lee Trundle. The things this guy could do with a football. The things this guy could do with a football was just ridiculous. And him and another player who probably should have found his way in there, Andy Robinson, the two Scousers, loved each other to bits. Their bond and their relationship that they had on and off the pitch was ridiculous. So they would just go and really just take their mick when they were playing. How they would like non-verbal communication to understand where each person was. And like I say, Lee on the ball, tricks, skills. He could do any kind of finish from a header. Heading wasn't his strongest point, but he could head the ball. He could. Left foot was a joke, not a great deal of backlift, similar to Matty Taylor. Overhead kicks, everything went in the top corner. He was just an amazing player. And I've never seen someone manipulate the ball as much as he could. I can remember we were playing, it was the LDV Vans, I think it was called then, and we'd beaten Colchester at home, something like 4-1 in the first leg, so we knew we were through. So Kenny Jackett made quite a few changes in the second leg, and myself, I was on the bench, I think Leon Knight was on the bench, Lee Trundle was on the bench, and we're up at Leia Road, it was, the old Colchester's old ground, and we come out half-time, and the half-time entertainment's out there, and obviously the Colchester fans had given us a little bit of stick, so we're ignoring it. So I clip a ball 30-odd yards into Lee, and he controls it on his chest, then catches it on the back of his neck, flicks it up 3 or 4 times, volleys it straight back to me. I'd take a touch, put it on the floor, very safe, clip another one back to him. He then catches it between his thigh and his chest, flicks it up, rolls it over the back of his shoulders, volleys it. Half-time entertainment for Colchester that they paid for, no one was watching. The whole ground was just watching Lee Trundle doing his tricks and skills. To the point after that 15-minute period, he got clapped off. They're like clapping him off. They couldn't believe what they'd seen. He was just an amazing talent. And I think what really impressed me about Lee as well, that he left Swansea and went to Bristol City in a big money move. He scored some goals there, but I would say it didn't quite work out the same as he wanted to when he was at Swansea. But understandably, when that big money move comes calling you, you've got to take it. Totally understand that, and he was right to do that. But then came back to Swansea and was able to pick up where he left off and was able to perform again to the highest level, and scoring goal after goal after goal. And no surprise that he went on to have the career he had. Arguably could have played higher because he could link play so well and hold the ball up so well as well. So yeah, an exceptional talent, and another one that was the life and soul of the party. Whenever there was a night out, 9 times out of 10, it was him that organised it. But if he organised it, we were all there, and we had some great nights out down there as well. So yeah, special talent, Lee Trundle, special talent.
Fantastic. Excellent. So who is the big? Well, I say big man. Who's the big man, or maybe a little man? Because
no.
Have we got a big man up front?
He's a big man. And this will be an easy one for you. This man allowed me to realise that I could be a good finisher. This man allowed me to actually become a relatively good striker, because without this man, I wouldn't have got on the edge of flick-ons or through balls or have him hold the ball up for me to allow me to go and perform to the level I did in my last season at Luton. A lot of people would have looked at him as just being a big target man, but he had so much more to offer. And what he went on to achieve from his time at Luton was just nothing short of exceptional. So really, really, really proud to have had a season playing up top, or 2 seasons, shall I say, playing with him. He's had a year out injured here at Luton, so 2 seasons playing with him and 1 up front with him. Yeah, absolutely amazing. And I'll never forget that year. We just goal after goal after goal after goal between us. So I think you guys are going to know straight away who he is.
Mr. Steve Howard.
Mr. Steve Howard. I know Nico put him in his as well, but
what do you say?
The whole little and large combo, shall we say? It was me and Howie. We were the little and large combo. He would be able to flick things on for me. I knew exactly, because of the understanding we had, I knew exactly where he was going to flick the ball to. He knew exactly where I was going to make him run. I knew if it went up to him and he had to hold it up with his chest, I know it's going to stick. So then I knew where to make my next move and off of that, because I know no one can get round him. No one can get over him. I knew as soon as he did receive it and he could spin, I could make my runs in behind the defence and stretch play, because I know he's going to slide me in. And also, me being a bit of a pain in the backside and being a bit of a nuisance, I knew the big man was there to back me up if anything ever went wrong, and no one's going to argue with him. Absolutely no one's going to argue with him. So you'd have him to deal with things, or Coiney to deal with things, or someone like Sol to deal with things. I knew I could be a bit of a pest and a nuisance, and no one was going to mess with me after that. But you know what Harry went on to achieve after being here, at a club where, and you'll agree with this, Mark, we didn't have much. You know, we had to change at the stadium and get in cars and drive across to the rugby club, then get back in the cars all horrible and dirty, and then drive back to Kenilworth Road to get a shower. I don't even think we got food. I think we used to go, we went to the sandwich shop around the corner. We went for a sandwich afterwards. That's what we did. Yeah. So, you know, we didn't have anything. All we had was good, honest bunch of footballers that worked their socks off to be the best they could be. And you look at how we then go on to, you know, become a Premier League player. Yeah, absolutely. Just so much credit for him. And on top of everything, it was a gentle giant. He was a gentle giant, just such a lovely, lovely, lovely guy. You'd see someone as big as him and you'd expect him to be, you know, a bit more angry and a bit more aggressive. He brought that to the table when it was football time, yes. But after that, no, it's a genuinely good guy. Genuinely good guy. And someone, as I say, you know, I think it was 18 odd goals I finished with that year. And I'm pretty certain he would have had a hand in the majority of them with what he did and how he played. So yeah, he had to, for me, he had to form a part of my front three, even though, as Marv says, Lee Trundle would probably play a little bit more centrally. But I had to go with that 4-3-3 to get Craig Bellamy, to get Steve Howard, and to get Lee Trundle on the pitch at the same time.
Yes. And there's actually one big man I'm going to ask you about, who I believe you played with at the start of his career, which is the nickname of the Beast. Is it right that you played with Akin Fenner at the start of his career?
Bayo was at Swansea as well.
Yeah. What was he like to play with? Interest in terms of, because a lot of people see him as literally a target man and nothing else.
No, so see, now Bayo was someone that there's a few players that I considered. So I was fortunate enough to play for England with, as you said, with Nico. Michael Owen was up front. It was me, Gifton, Noel Williams, and Michael Owen up front. I played up front with Michael Owen, one of the best strikers, one of the best English strikers I've ever been. But I wanted to keep it just to club football. Bayo was one I thought about, but I thought I didn't play with him long enough for him to get in there. But people will look at Bayo, people look at his size, people look at his physique and just think he's a big old battering ram. No. This guy could play. Fantastic first touch. Could hold the ball up really well. Could finish really well. Power and pace to stretch the ball, stretch play and get in behind opposition defences. And again, another gentle giant.
Yeah.
The one story I can remember, we were playing for Swansea at the Liberty Stadium against Doncaster Rovers. I think it might have been Andy Robertson plays a ball in behind the defence. And Bayo's got the left side centre-back here, the right side centre-back here, and he's still running. Sean O'Driscoll, the Doncaster manager's going, Stop him! The centre-back's going, we can't! And he's running, but he's got them both at arm's length. Still manages to go through and finish. And you're just going, wow, like, what can you do? What can you do with this guy? But yeah, and even at Millwall as well. Had a brief time at Millwall with him as well. He was another Kenny Jackett Kenny Jackett took me to Millwall, and he brought Bale in for a short period of time as well. So yeah, really another one that really pleased to have played with players like that. But certainly, as you say, probably a player that's been underestimated of how good he actually is. A lot of people used to say that about Peter Crouch. He's just as a head on a stick. He's just there to flick things on. But actually, he was a good footballer, technically gifted. And Bayo definitely falls into that bracket with me. And in reality, he wouldn't have had the teams he had if he wasn't a good, technically gifted footballer. He wouldn't still be at Wycombe Wanderers now playing. I believe he's in his last season now, but he still wouldn't be playing those games or performing to that level if he wasn't technically able to play at that level. So yeah, and a great lad as well. Great guy.
Yeah, definitely. Marvin.
Yeah. So who's going to lead? I mean, you mentioned earlier on before about you're not sure who the manager's going to be. So given that you've had time while we've been doing this, have you come up with a name or names?
The names I had were Mike Walker from my time at Norwich, just because of what he achieved for the club at the time in Europe. And obviously he was the man that gave me my debut, so he was up there. You've then got Joe Kinnear, who brought together, again, I'm going to say it, a random bunch of players, but brought us together and made a ridiculously good team spirit, and in turn then made us successful, and then Newley came in and took that over. So you've got that as well. But then you've also got Kenny Jackett at Swansea as well, that did exactly the same, where he brought people together that all had points to prove. And by bringing people together that had points to prove, it made a real rounded team. So for me, I'm going to have to go with Kenny, just because, and that's no disrespect to the others, because the others have both had, real pivotal moments in my life and my career that shaped me to be the manager stroke coach I am today. But the meticulous nature in which Kenny worked is something that I will never forget. Every single player knew exactly what was expected of them from the first minute of the game. Every player knew exactly where they should be in any moment of the game. Could his man management have been better at times? 100%, but I think there's a lot of managers out there that will have that issue around man management, and that's probably born from the fact that they've got a steely determination just go and be the best they can be on the pitch, and sometimes forget about those other aspects and how they look after players. That's not every manager, but I know that is some. But how Kenny got us playing? How Kenny got us out of League Two? He got into League One and then just fell short in the playoffs to get promoted straight to the Championship. We lost on penalties to Barnsley. It was actually Alan Tate and Bayo Akinfenwa that missed penalties, otherwise would have got back-to-back promotions. Yeah, just for me, I took a lot of how I will shape myself as a manager and what he did. There's a lot that I won't take, for sure. There's a lot that I won't take, that's for sure. But he would be the one that I would go with to lead that team. And again, that's no disrespect to Mike Mule, because I thought I loved working with Newley and Steenie. There was something about those two. They were a bit of a comedy act sometimes, weren't they, Newley and Steenie? They were a bit of an unintentional comedy act, but it worked for the group at the time. They were perfect for the group, as you know. Absolutely perfect for the group. And then other managers that, I went on to work with, whether it be Simon Grayson, who was just starting out in management, with Blackpool, managed to get promoted from League One to the Championship. So, yeah, but from, working with Kenny for 2 years at Swansea and then 2 years at Millwall, he would be the one that I would have to lead the team. And he's a manager that's gone on to, he's not been so successful in his last couple of jobs, and obviously left Leyton Orient a few months ago, but certainly someone that for me, I learned a lot from, definitely, that will shape some aspects of how I am as a coach today. So yeah, he takes the manager.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
Then the last little bit, I know quite a few people know what you're doing now since you've finished playing, but just to go over some of the teams you've played with or supporters who are listening who don't know what you're doing now, what are you currently doing now?
So, as you said at the start, so I'm now the lead development squad coach or manager at Luton Town. I first came into the club in 2019, having left Norwich, where I was the foundation phase lead for 4 years, changing regime at Norwich. Different academy manager came in, club wanted to go in a different direction that didn't involve ex-players that had played for the club. So that was it, time for me to move on. So then ended up coming into Luton Town initially as the head of coaching. Which was a job role that I absolutely loved, not something that I expected to enjoy as much as I did, because I hadn't come from a coach development background at all. I was all about being on the grass with the players. And then, one of the things that was highlighted was the fact that, the under-18s at Luton would have to go from under-18s and jump straight to first team. Massive gulf to be able to, it's a big, big jump to be able to do that. So the decision was made by the club that they thought it was important to introduce an under-21s team. And the club approached me and asked me to step away from the coaching role to become the lead coach of that development squad. So I would say we run it more like a B team to a certain extent, where we've got a nucleus of under 21 players, but we also don't carry so many where the best under 18s that are performing at the required level can step up and form part of that group. But also if the gaffer, as in Nathan Jones, the gaffer has 2 or 3 players in there that aren't getting many first team minutes for whatever reason, they can also step down and play in that as well. So, I could have 1 week where I've got a nucleus of under 18s playing, but I could have the week after where I might have 9 or 10 senior first team players playing for me within those games as well. So it's a really, really varied role. So enjoyable. it's very challenging for me as well because I get the opportunity to play this way. So to train and work with first team senior experienced players on a regular basis who have all been fantastic with me when they step down to play within that 21s and development squad program. So it's an exciting time for the club, in the playoff positions at the moment in the Championship. Can we go that step further and get into the Premier League? Let's hope so, because it'll be amazing for the town and amazing for the club. When you look back, at the struggles the club have had going back 5, 10, 15 years, to be able to be on the precipice of potentially getting up to the Premier League is just amazing. When you link that to the fact that we've got the new ground, Power Court, that will obviously hope building will start on that imminently, looking at the prospect of going from Category 3 to Category 2 status and getting a new training ground that will allow us to get that Cat 2 status with an indoor facility. Really, really exciting time for the club. And, with the manager they've got at the moment, he's a winner and he's building a team and building a group of players that are winners as well. And that will go above and beyond to make sure they get those points on a Saturday. So, yeah, the club's in a really, really great position. Really great position. And, for me, I think what this club's done to me, it's almost whetted my appetite to go into management as well. Like I say, it's not something that I thought I would want to do after playing, but having the opportunity to work closely with Nathan as first team coach there on 2 occasions over the last 2 seasons, it's just whetted the appetite to know that at some point, I want to step into that management circle myself and see if I can make a go of that and see if I can make a success of myself. As I said earlier, you're going to get the sack at some point, but I'm 43 years old now, and I definitely want to see if I can explore that at some point and see where it can take me. Yeah, but for now, really, really happy with what I'm doing. Really happy.
Fantastic. Well, it was so nice, and thanks so much for giving up your time while sat in the club at the training ground. We really appreciate it. But thank you so much for your time, and that was Adrian Forbes' My Best 11.